Hello everyone. Hello and welcome to this new Odoo Insider, and hello Jürgen as well.
Hello.
So welcome back indeed after 2 weeks with let's say some pre-recorded session. Today we are happy to give a new Odoo Insider with actually a very special topic, which is a focus on Swiss payroll for 2026. I mean, as we have here one of the experts and R&D developer of the module and the localization, it will be the chance for us to make a demo and to answer your questions on that localization in Odoo 19. Just for you to know, for the next week, actually you are going to get some regular Q&A sessions. So for the people who came to this Insider willing to ask questions about, I mean, the current project or implementation, just keep them for next week, okay? And we'll be happy to answer them at that moment. Of course, this session is addressed to the person in Switzerland, but if you are still an Odoo enjoyer and you want just to see exactly how it goes, to make a localization for payroll in Odoo, it's still the right way to observe it and see how it goes. Well, we are at the beginning of 2036, and so it could be the chance for you to switch, let's say, to payroll in Odoo for your Swiss company. And actually, if we make just a step back, you might notice that the localization was released like less than a year ago, which is really not a long time. But in such a period of time, we got a lot of feedback, a lot of implementation also on the market, which made us improve the tool furthermore. And we were feeling that today was maybe the right time to once again demystify Swiss payroll for all of you that might not, let's say, get the right information or knowledge about it, and make sure that your questions and feedback are answered as well. So it's really a chance for you to do that today. One more thing as well is that we have one news today, is that we are working on the official documentation to implement the Swiss payroll, and today we can share with you a link for, let's say, a temporary documentation about it, which takes this following shape. So the idea is that we help you to set it up and to install it, let's say, based on what we will also see today, but also target a lot of specific use cases that we actually met on our own implementation project and when we discuss with the partners that are locally there in Switzerland, with the idea that you can just take a look at this very big list of use cases and try to use them to answer your own cases. Personally, the way I would use it is just to make a Control F, and look for specific content. Let's make an example. For example, if I look at time off, for example, here, so I can just dive into the content and see exactly every time that time off is mentioned, to see exactly what is the link in between Swiss payroll and time off at that moment. So it's let's say available for everyone. So just keep the link on the side and just look at it. As much as you can to answer your own questions.
And just as a side note, the goal is to have this in the end in the official Odoo/documentation, so that we can have, of course, all translations in German, French, and Italian for Swiss people.
Indeed. All right. So now I'll let you speak, Jürgen, and explain what you're going to do today.
So our agenda today will be to make you an expert in less than an hour, hopefully. So Swiss payroll is kind of like a cooking recipe. You can cut carrots, cut tomatoes in different orders, but some stuff cannot be mixed up. You have to set up some things first, the base, which is your insurances, the rates, your source tax institutions, your wage statement templates, certificat de salaire in French, and your employee information, of course. So the goal here will be first to set up the base. What is the base? The base is to set up your 3 mandatory insurances, which is the AVS, the CAF, and the LAA, which is the social insurances, the family fund insurances, and the accident insurance. And the goal here will be to show it live demo. So I will jump right into the database, and here we see the Odoo app switcher, and everything will happen inside here, payroll. So first step will be to set up your company information. So we go in the settings, general settings, my company here, and we need to first set up the address of your company. Which will be in Lucerne, Switzerland. That is the first ultimate step of setting up your Swiss payroll. The second step will be to look at this screen here, which is the general payroll settings. And you have multiple fields and things you can find here. Here are more quality of life settings, which help you remind you of your work permits and to have notifications about when they expire and so on.
I see here, Jürgen, that we have a choose a payroll localization package. I mean, it's probably for the case where it's not installed yet. I think it's the case on your side, but if we click on the button, what happens actually?
What happens, you see all the localization packages that are available, and we see here that the Swiss one is installed here. So we are good here in terms of installation of our modules. If you're not sure about if your app is installed or not, you can just go to Apps, remove the filter, type Swiss, and you get all the relevant modules. Here we have this one that we should install as well. There we go.
Great.
Thank you, Antoine. So we have several options regarding to accounting. If you want to do SEPA payments, to generate SEPA files to send directly to your bank, you can activate this.
Just to know that, of course, to have that feature, you need to have accounting installed as well in the company to set up your bank journal and bank information, of course.
And here come our core informations about our payroll setting in Switzerland. So we have two fields about your company information, which is the post box, where people can send you letters, and the identification number, which looks like CHE/999 something, etc., with a validation of the number. You have a contact person section. This person will be the one in charge in terms of transmission. So when we transmit to Swissdec and insurances, this is the name that will come up on the receiver side and that the institutions can contact in case of questions or doubts or requiring more information. So let's put Antoine there. Of course, he has a Swiss number now.
Easy to remember as well.
Sorry?
Easy to remember.
Yeah. He bought it for a few francs. And then we have delegate payroll. This might be relevant to a lot of people in this live because a lot of fiduciaries started to use our software. And if a fiduciary is handling your payroll, you have to enable this and mention the relevant information about your company. Meaning this company will be the one in charge of doing the payroll of the company here, Odoo Insider. So here you can put all the informations of your fiduciary company. And we also have few fields here that most people should not mess with because most people have the default settings. But if you do statistic declarations to the Federal Office of Statistics, you can choose your pay agreement, which you have 4 options of. Most people are in the individual employment contract. The statistic payroll unit is if you have a pre-existing agreement with the statistic office, then you mention which unit is relevant here. The transmission language, where you define how institution answer to you. So if you send a declaration, the reply will be in French or in German or in Italian. Let's select French here. The 30-day method, which is kind of a technical feature on how you compute wages and absences monthly, meaning each month will be considered on a 30-day basis or on a number of months, number of days of the month basis. Basically, if you have an unpaid leave on February, if you select 30-day method, it will be 29/30, even for February. If you don't select it, it will take the classical number of days, so 27 out of 28, meaning the wage will be prorated differently. And here, agricultural company, this is a requirement by Swissdec. You have to tick it and it shows up some other field on the employee, which is very simple. So that's the base of the base that we can save here.
All right, great. So now that the settings are done, what is the next step?
Well, that was just the first part of the settings. We still have all of this to handle. Swiss Payroll is kind of it takes some time to get starting, but it's a diesel. Once it gets started, it doesn't stop anymore. So the second step will be to set up your work locations. So these are the units of exploitation of your company. Here we can set up just by searching our company partner, so Odoo Insider. It will autofill the address that you filled previously in your company and find your canton and the municipality ID. This is the commune number. Here you have two different fields which are relevant for the transmission. If you don't do statistic declarations, they are not mandatory to fill, but if you do, you have to fill this number, which you can find on the registry of companies of Switzerland. You either fill this one or the in-house ID. In-house ID is if you have, again, pre-existing agreement with the Federal Office of Statistics, meaning that they give you a number so that they can identify you more easily. You then have two other fields, weekly hours, which are the 100% work time rate hours required per week, and the weekly lessons, which is kind of hours, but not exactly hours. Again, this is a SwissDec requirement where they want to make a differentiation between worked hours and worked lessons, so you always have to specify both. I think this is something that is recurrent in Swiss Payroll softwares where you have these two separately. So we now set up a work location. Perfect. We can set up more if you want, but let's keep with this one. Of course, we have a pre-agreement with the Federal Office of Statistics because we are big Odoo Insider. First step. Second step will be to set up your wage statements. So what is a wage statement? A wage statement is what we call in French certificat de salaire. So this is the thing that every employee gets at the end of the year with the pretty QR code at the top and all the relevant informations about what they earned, so they can send it to their tax authority to calculate their taxes properly. And the goal here is to set up the main company template. So most people will be subject to this template, and most companies will only have one, but of course we have the flexibility to create multiple ones if you want a template for this group of people in production, for example, or a template for this group of people in the office or for accountants, etc., etc.
Yeah, so here the idea is to just spare some time afterwards when we configure the employee's contract. And
exactly.
So on. Yeah.
And so you can select all the relevant information that you find in the salary certificate. So to check if you have free transportation, free meals or lunch that are given by the company, your company car policy, no company car, the employee pays at least 0.9% per month, to be clarified, and of course all the relevant options regarding the wage statement. You can also specify other fringe benefits that are not mentioned here, or you can add additional text, for example, at the end of the document that is free text. So we make a very basic template just to set it up. And that was the third step.
Mm-hmm.
Third step. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps. 8 more steps and we're ready to go.
Great.
Now we get to the main point, the very funny part that I love doing, filling insurance information and rates. This is truly my passion. We'll start with the LI insurance. So again, an issue with this localization is that we have French terms, German terms, and Italian terms, but English terms are kind of hard to come up with. So for now, in the English version, you see the French one, but translation is something we're actively working on so that each language has their correct legal term. And we start here with the LI insurance. So this is your accident insurance. And the insurances usually follow kind of the same pattern, where you have the insurance number. This is the kind of the ID of the insurance. That is the number used to transmit data to them through SwissDeck. And usually you can find here on this page.
Yeah, and actually that link is part of the documentation as well, so you can retrieve it from there, but yeah.
So you go on the SwissDeck website and you have destinataire de données. And here you have the insurances that are ready to receive data, that are SwissDeck certified and that you can transmit data through electronic means. So for the AVS, you have this insurance number there. This is the number you'll fill on this field. Here we are on the LA. Here are the insurers. And you will find the number of your insurance there.
That's a question that I got actually from customers asking if if those fields are mandatory or not. But yes, they should be, like especially insurance number should be found under, let's say, insurance contract, right?
Yes. So the insurance contract that the insurance gave you usually has all these informations. So the customer number and the contract number, this will identify your company in the transmission so that they know who they're receiving data from. So our main insurance information is filled. Now we have to fill the different rates that our employees will pay and that your company will pay in this case. For the LAA, we have this concept of groups where you can have multiple contracts for groups. A practical example would be a factory, for example, where the floor workers will have one policy and the office workers will have another policy. So here you might have group A for floor workers or group B for office workers. Here we'll make a simple case with only one group where everyone has the same policy. And you have the classic list view of Odoo where you can open each record. So we click on the first one and we can see this. So you have the group unit that you can choose from A to Z. That is usually the letter that your insurance gives you. And you have these different fields. So you have the dates. The from is from when is this rate applicable. Mm-hmm. So from January 1, 2026, this rate will be applicable. And you can also choose to close it. So usually you would do until 31 December 2026. And we have for this year 2026 these rates applicable. You have the threshold, which is the maximum salary that is insured. Usually it's a legal value, doesn't change, everyone has the same one. You have the occupational part insurance, which is the company part, the one that you will pay. We'll set it to 1%. And you have the non-occupational part, which is the part that the employee will pay, or you will pay half, or you will pay full. We'll see later how we can set it up such that we can have the three cases here. Here, if we set it in like this, we have 1% of occupational part that the company fully pays all the time, always. And you have 1% non-occupational part that in this case, which we have 0% company part, the employee will fully pay. But you can also choose to pay half-half, or you might ask, how can I pay it fully? Well, in this case, in Odoo, to pay it fully yourself through the company, we have to set it up on the employee itself because this constitutes a different insurance code where no deductions are taken from the employee.
So yeah, indeed. So important to note indeed that the company part then only applies, as you explained, to the non-occupational rate. Great. Okay, that's
so
clear.
This is a way to define globally the LRA group A for your company. So that was the third step. Let's go on with the fourth step, which is the LPP, BVG in German. So same process. We have a name, we have an insurance code, customer number, and contract number. And we have here the different LPP codes of your company. They're not mandatory, but sometimes your LPP insurance will give you certain codes. For example, production will be 1,000.
Maybe just to make difference in between departments and so on?
That's it. That's different solutions for the insurance. And a new thing that we have here since a few weeks now is the LPP in percentage. I know that this has been the most requested feature of previous year, where people that were paid hourly, usually when you're paid hourly, you don't really know how much LPP you have to pay for the month. So we introduced the LPP in percentage, and this is the general setup that usually is the same for everyone, but some convention collective ask you to have different numbers here, so you can set it up yourself, always with the same principle of rates from, rates to, which defines the applicability of these numbers. So that was the third step. Let's go on with the fourth step, which is the big AVS insurance, social insurance.
Yeah, and you set it up now because actually it's going to retrieve information from the LAA and LPP.
Yes,
that's right.
So in the AVS, you have to specify which is your main LAA insurance and your main LPP insurance. So we like to do them first in this case. So we are in Luzerne, so we are affiliated to ACA Luzerne 003.000, member number 123.123. And we define here our insurance, our LPP, valid from 1 January this year and 1 January this year. And we have here all the different rates applicable to your AVS. Of course, those are national numbers and should be the same for everyone, except for this one, which is the administrative fees, which are the percentage of fees that you pay per employee. So this will be the percentage applied to the sum of amounts that were paid by the employee and by you. So if someone pays 50 francs of AVS and you pay equally 50 francs, this will do 1.2% of 100 for your administration fees. I know that some companies work, or some other softwares work with the global salary. So you do the math on the salary itself and not on the payments. But again, this is a 50-50. So some companies work this way, some others work the other way. I think you have to do kind of a conversion of the rate if you want to get the right one. Here we have the numbers regarding the unemployment insurance, which is AC. You also have ACC. I know this is not applicable anymore since 2024, I think. But again, Swissdec told us that it's not applicable now, but it might come back in the future. So we still have to keep it there.
Interesting to know that here, I think for some of my customers, errors were coming from the fact that they deleted maybe by mistake lines here. Yeah. So it's important to always have one valid line for the period of time that you have.
And if you delete it, it will block it anyway at the payslip generation. Yeah. So there is no issue here. And on the second tab, you have other relevant information, which is the yearly maximum salary insured for the unemployment insurance. And same thing for the ACC, which is the complementary unemployment insurance, which is not relevant anymore in Switzerland. And you have the monthly exoneration that you can have as a retired person that is still working. So this is the monthly one. So 1.4K francs are deducted, exonerated monthly for retired workers.
Great. So yeah. So keep in mind that all that we did now was mandatory for everyone. Like you cannot skip one of these steps in the setup.
There might be some exceptions where some companies might not have an accident insurance or retirement insurance, and this can be defined here. Where if you don't have an accident insurance, you have to specify the reason there so that the transmission goes well.
All right.
Now another mandatory step that of course I forgot, is the family compensation fund, which is usually the same as your AVS.
Same, actually, I heard a few feedback asking that if is it really mandatory or not, but I think it is, yeah. Legally, they need to have one.
Yes. Of course, there's always exceptions and weird company structures which will tell you that they don't require one, but Here we're talking 99.9%, so that is usually the normal case. And we have here some new features that were also added on the Family Compensation Fund, which allow you to define if the child allowances are paid directly by the insurance or by the employer. For example, we know that in Genève, you can have there's the possibility where the insurance directly wires money to the employees, and it's not the employer that does it, so you have to tick this box. And you can define here the rate defined by your family compensation fund. So the company rate here will set it to 1%. And you also have an employee rate, which is not relevant for any canton except one, which is Valais. So Valais has an employee rate, and the employee has to pay a deduction here as well. And the new feature is here, where we have the child allowances scale that allow us to kind of automate your child allowance payments, where you can define a child policy where from age 0 to 16 you receive a child allowance of 250 francs, and you can also define a supplementary amount. You can define from 16 to 21 an education allowance of 300, for example. And you can also define a more flexible policy of from child. These fields allow you to say that from child number 3, between 0 and 16, this allowance can increase. So we go to 400 here. So from the third child will get 150 francs extra.
Yes, so the rules are going to apply altogether depending on the case.
Yes, exactly.
Great.
And here we are done for the mandatory steps, and we have, no, we're not exactly done. The mandatory are done, but if you have source tax, we have an additional step to do. But we'll do the non-mandatory ones because a lot of companies are subject to it, which is the complementary accident insurance and the daily sickness insurance. So in French we call that the LAAC, which again, same thing. Here we are affiliated for the LAAC is the same insurance that does everything. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And for the solutions, for the rates, it's a bit more tricky and complicated. We can define here solutions like A1, which again, same principle. A1 will be, for example, the floor workers. A2 might be the office workers. B3 might be the administrative board, etc. And same principle. 2 fields, from and to, which define the applicability of your rate. You have the wage from and wage to. This is an important concept. Here you define the salary that is insured. So usually you can have a solution that looks like this. So from 0 to 148,200 francs, you will be insured through this solution. And you have the possibility to specify the male rates and the female rates. We do 1 and 1. And your employer part. I know that some conventions collectives require some very weird percentages here, where it's, for example, 63.23456. So we implemented, of course, this feature to allow that. And if you want weird numbers there, you can tick this box, custom employer rates. And you can define yourself the rates that you want to pay as the employer. So it's not exactly 50-50. Here you define fully yourself how much you want to pay on your part. We'll keep it simple for now with the classic 50% employer part. And we save it. So that was one solution. Of course, we want an additional solution where we define what we call surobligatoire. So this is to insure the salary above the one that we mentioned before, and we will make it go through 400,000 francs. So this solution will insure it from 148,200 to 400,000. and we make it a bit less expensive here. Save. And we get here 2 solutions for LAC. For the daily sickness insurance, it's completely analogous. It works in exactly the same way. So I will just repeat the process here. So we have A1, wage from 0 to 148,200, 1 and 1. And we have A2 from 148,002 to 300,000. 0.4, 0.4. That is the complete setup if you didn't hire any foreigners.
Great.
Now,
and so what if we actually hire
what if
some
we hire
foreign-
non-Swiss people? Of course, if someone doesn't have the nationality, they have to pay what we call tax at source. So the taxes, the withholding taxes are taken directly from his salary. So we have to define here the different institutions that we will communicate with for monthly transmission. So we have here in configuration, source tax institution, and we will create the one of Luzerne. So if you have employees that live there, you will communicate through the institution of this canton. If you have an employee that lives in Bern, you will have to communicate with the ACI of Bern. So this is the institution where the employee that is subject to source tax lives in. Or, of course, other conditions that change here, but it's the institution where basically you will pay the withholding tax. So we set up one for Luzerne here. And we have to, of course, import the rates for our institution. So here we have 2 possibilities. The manual file import that you can find on this link. That was the process before we made it simple. So you have here all the different rates for different cantons.
And for 2026 also.
Yeah.
It's 1 per year.
So it's every year it changes, or it can change in the middle of the year like we saw with Vaud in March. So you click here, you download the file and you upload it. Of course, that is very annoying to do. So we developed this automatic import feature, and you have the possibility to import everything. It will take some time, so I suggest to only import the ones that you really need. And here we import Luzerne. And of course, I think they changed the URL for 2026. So let's import it for 25. Oops. Okay, we have a little technical issue.
Probably yes, but at least you still have the manual way to do it if you want to make sure it works.
Let's try with the manual version. Maybe not. Will take some time.
I think I see it.
Okay, of course, this is the beginning of the year unintended issues. We'll fix that very soon. So basically, this is how you import your tax files. And that was all the setup for your database.
But if you come back to the website, you know, with the rates, there's one from Lucerne. It's written in French actually. That's why. Yes. It's a zip file, but you need to open it, I guess.
So, yeah. Extract to.
In the recent. on the left. But anyway, I mean,
Anyway,
well, if we ever make a break, we'll just
yeah,
import it at that moment.
At that moment, yeah.
But I mean, you got the point. So here, manually or with the link, indeed, as you explained, it's probably the link has been updated for 2026.
Yeah.
That's why. All right.
I think the rates for 2026 are not even out yet. You cannot import maybe canton by
maybe
canton.
yes.
Let me try to import everything. Okay.
All right.
Okay, we can import
so
every canton for 2026, so you have to import everything. We always have a solution. Always.
Yes. All right. So yeah, and so once it's loaded, so here I think we made all the steps that were needed for the setups. There's maybe one more thing I think that we can check in the settings, which is just the test for the transmission with SwissDeck, right?
Yeah.
All right.
It takes a bit of time since we're importing every canton, and every canton has thousands and thousands of different rates, so it can take a few moments.
So if we just take a look at the next step, then yeah. So afterwards, now we need to set up the employees, right?
Yeah, that is the next step, is to set up your employees, which is, I think, the most important step, where you set up their personal informations. You set up their tax informations, if they're subject to surtax. You set up their residency address. You set up their family situation, if they have children, if they're married, divorced, etc. You set up, of course, the most important, how they are paid. Do they have a monthly salary, hourly salary? Do they have a special kind of salary where they're paid by commission, non-frequent payments? You set up different situation changes that can occur through the year.
What's interesting is that previously, before Odoo 19, we had to do this in two steps, like first the employee and then the contract.
Yeah.
Now everything is kind of mixed up, so we have one place to define everything.
So we managed to import our tax rates. If you want to check them for yourself, you go to configuration, rule parameters, and you can see all the different rates for every canton.
If you open one just to see what it looks like.
It looks like this.
All right.
So there's the Swiss system has very, very small brackets. So compared to other countries where Belgium, for example, we say from 0 to 20,000 you pay this percentage. Switzerland says from 4,351 to 4,040 you pay this percentage. So you have a very well defined brackets for the country, which kind of makes sense, but it takes a bit more time to import in the system. So yeah. So let's go on with our employee management. How do you get through your employees? You have two ways to do it. You have this screen, which is employees, and of course payroll. You go to employees there. So we already have one employee, Antoine, which we have different tabs here to get all the relevant informations of your employee. So the first tab is the work. So here you define the job position. Our dear Antoine is a CEO. He's his own manager.
Of course.
His work address, and some additional features of Odoo, which where you can define the usual work locations and a note for the employee. You also have different fields here for his email, different tags that you might want to add. CEO. You might want to add a very good employee. This way.
But all of these are still linked to professional information, of course. So here it's the email address of the employee, but in the company.
Yes. You have his resume, his skills if you want. Of course, we'll not dive through into detail here. We are here to talk about payroll, about very interesting stuff. And here you have usually the tabs we will focus on for doing payroll are personal, payroll, insurance, and wage statement. These four will define everything you need to pay your employee correctly. So you have the birth information with his first name, last name, the social insurance number, his birthday, here, and his gender.
I have a question here. Maybe it's a bit early, but why not asking it? Still, like we have to fill information, but still we can save. I mean, we can still do the changes that we do. However, I guess that some of the information that are here are needed, for payroll computation. So you decided not to make them mandatory, required.
Exactly.
But
so
still,
how do you know if you need something or not? Basically, once you run your payslip, your pay runs, if something that is missing is required and that you need it, you will see a big yellow box above the payslip saying you're missing this field for the transmission. So you will know if some informations are missing.
Of course, we can make a test afterwards just to show you.
Yeah. So his nationality, he's Belgian. He's working with an annual permit in Switzerland. And of course, he's subject to source tax, and he's not a cross-border commuter. His private address, he conveniently works right next to the office. Up, and it auto-filled the canton and the commune.
It's interesting because here, I guess, once again, that you might mention that afterwards, but that here the content that I live where in, let's say, is going to be used for the computation of the source tax.
Exactly.
But it could happen that I don't live in Switzerland. Maybe I work outside.
There are multiple cases. So you have the case where you live in Switzerland in a certain canton and you don't have the nationality. So that is where you will pay your withholding tax. You could be a cross-border commuter and live in France, for example, and then the source tax canton will be the one of your work location. And you could also be living in France, but having a weekly residence address in Switzerland. So the source tax canton will be the one of your weekly residence address.
All right.
So you have a few different cases of how this works. Everything is explained in the SwissDec documentation. So you can go here in the impôt à la source, and you have very beautiful graphs about how it works. So you have different decision trees that you can take to fill in the right code. But of course, to get the right source tax canton, this is done automatically by Odoo, by checking if you live in Switzerland, you live in a bordering country, you have a weekly work address, etc.
Great. And just for you to know, it's also part of the documentation about where you can find that explanation in the book. And
usually, the way fields work here is if something is selected, other fields will appear that you need to fill. For example, here his marital status is set to single, but if he was married, you'd have
on the right
his marriage partner information that you would have to fill for tax at source. So let's keep it single for now for simplicity.
Something that could seem weird here, that saying single since a start date, could be weird, but it's still needed to do so.
It's still needed. You still need to say from when is this status valid, since you could have status changes in the middle of the year that could require a code change, for example. And you also have his children information, where you can add all the relevant information of the child. So if Antoine had a child, let's call him John. He was born today, this month. And you have different fields here that we added, since we talked earlier about automation of child allowances. So if the child receives allowances, you will get automatically computed until when is these allowances due, and also for the education allowance. So until 31 January 2042, he will receive child allowances. And you can also define the status of the child, which will do some other extra computation in the back to determine which child rate he needs to take. So that was the case if he had a child. Let's not put one for simplicity. And here you have, as we talked earlier about the statistic declaration, this is not relevant to everyone, but some companies have to report statistics about their company. So a statistic declaration is a declaration that says, I have these employees, they work these jobs, this amount of hours per week, they are subject to this contract type, etc., etc. So these are the information, for example, about his holidays per year on a full-time rate, of course. So this is the amount of days per year if he was working 100%. The amount of public holidays per year, his study level, his job type. So this is again fields that are defined by SwissDex. So if he's top management, middle management, etc., he's top management, of course. Flex profiling is not mandatory, but again, if you have a pre-agreement with the statistic office, they will give you some categories. For example, admin, which will group them in different categories so that the institution can process them easier. And 2 different fields that say if he's staff for public administrations or if he's an interim worker.
I just take advantage of that moment to highlight the use of the question mark next to the field that can bring some useful information.
Yes.
For example, for the holidays, like here, interesting to know that it is actually the number of holidays at 100% occupation rate. So yes, think about checking also that kind of information because it can help understanding the interface as well.
So on a lot of fields, you will find this question mark that will give you extra information about what to fill in this field. Of course, this is something that we continuously improve. The goal in the end will be to have a question mark on every single field that will explain you in details what exactly it means, what you need to fill, and what are the consequences of this field. And you also have at the end different relevant documents that you can upload. For example, the ID card, driving license, etc., etc. And you also have here visa and work permit that is used a lot in Switzerland, and it's relevant here with this warning. So based on what you fill in on the visa or work permit information, you can have warnings about when it will expire, etc.
I have maybe a question here that might interest some people, and actually I think I saw that question in the chat as well, but it's the right moment to see it. Let's imagine, that I get one new child during the year in March. It would make no sense, but anyway, how would you recommend us to create that information? Should I use the versioning of Odoo 19 to create a new current at the moment with the new information, or should I just update my child tab, with the new child?
So on the back end, it will be kind of the same result, but for reporting purposes, we have in Odoo 19 this new way of creating what we call versions. So what is a version? A version is, you can see here on the timeline, it's kind of a timeline of your employee where you defined from when this information is valid. So here we have from 1st of January, you will have all these informations are valid from 1st of January. So for your case, we would need to click the plus button here and add for March. So 1st of March, add the child here. Mm-hmm. And he will be present in March, but not in January.
Great.
Let's delete that one. Okay.
And of course, it's applicable on all the fields that are, let's say, Swiss related.
It's applied to all the fields that are time sensitive. Mm-hmm. So if you change your name, this will be relevant throughout all the history. If you made a mistake on the birthday, it will be changed everywhere. But some fields that are time sensitive, such as the address, such as your salary or other benefits, they will be versioned through this timeline.
Great.
So that was his personal information. We now have to set up his payroll information, which is kind of the interesting part here, where you will define what he earns and what kind of benefits he has on top of that, and his work hours, his work location, etc. So we start with the work location. We only have one, so it's Odoo Insider. The employee reference is this is kind of the fingerprint of the employee when you transmit data. So you can put anything you want. It's a way to connect employees from system to system. So if you transmit the data in a previous software with this number, it's interesting to put again the same number in Odoo so that insurance and institutions can identify them more easily.
And of course, it makes sense, but that reference should be unique by employee.
Yeah, it should be unique. And if you try to have the same number for 2 employees, you will get a warning on that.
Mm-hmm.
You have the payslip language. Of course, here we only have English since we didn't install French, German, and Italian yet. But you can, in Odoo, install these languages extra. Maybe Antoine can show me where this can be done. You add languages here. So French, German,
and Italian. Yeah.
Italian. Here we go. If we go back to employees, we can now select. Maybe doesn't work with the Swiss ones.
Or maybe refresh the page from time to time.
Yeah.
Let's see.
There
Yes,
we
it
go.
was.
We just needed to refresh the page. Let's put the normal French. And here we have his occupation. So from when did he enter the company? He started the company on 1st of January. And he's on a CDI, so no end date contract. So he's on a permanent contract with a monthly salary. And he's a Switzerland employee. He has a monthly wage of, how much do you want?
10K.
10K, very reasonable. We save the information, and that will be the basic information. We can choose if he's subject to the 13 month, or if he wants an extra 14 month. Let's just give him a 13 month for now. You can choose the contractual rate of the 13 month. This is equivalent to one whole salary at the moment of payment. Here you have the relevant schedule informations. So you have the current occupation rate and the weekly hours. These are filled usually automatically by the work location. But if Antoine works 50%, you can choose to either put 20 here, which will recompute this to 50, or you can choose to put 50 here and put it manually yourself, 20 there.
Important to note here, because we received the questions, like for example, let's imagine that I am indeed at 50% of occupation rate. I mean, I need to adapt at the same time my monthly salary on my contract.
This is a feedback that we got a lot. This is a decision that we made at the start, maybe a wrong one. Maybe this is something that we can adapt in the future. The salary that you see here will be the salary paid. So if I put 20 there and a work time rate of 50%, it will still be 10,000. So this is not the full-time equivalent wage. Of course, this is something that we're thinking about to improve, that a lot of companies and some softwares work that way, where if you put 10,000 here and 50% there, you expect 5,000 on the payslip. But for now, this is the amount that you get on your printed payslip. So let's keep him at 100%. That was his work time rate information. Of course, you have the case where you don't really know how many hours per week the employee will work. So we can check this box, which is the irregular working time. So this is, for example, for a security guard that might work only on call when he's needed. So you don't really know what his weekly work hours will be. So you check in this box.
Yes.
And of course, this is relevant information for mainly for the computation of the source tax. And you have at the bottom kind of the most interesting part.
Yes.
where you can add what we call the monthly wage types. So what are monthly wage types? They are additional salaries, additional inputs that will appear every month on the payslip. So you can have, truly we have hundreds of them. So this is everything we have. We can have, for example, a monthly commitment allowance of 300 francs. You can choose to give it a different name.
Yes, so this will be the name that will be displayed.
This will be the
after
name
month.
on the payslip.
Yeah.
And you could have, for example, what else can we put in? A residence allowance of 150 francs per month.
So as you say, indeed, that's per month. So that what we define here will be applied every single month.
Yeah.
Well, we generate payslip for that employee.
Yeah. We also have the possibility to add non-monetary amounts. What do we mean by that? We can see on this column the unit of what this wage is, but we don't only have monetary amounts. We could have, for example, paid overtime hours at this rate, and you see here hours, and we say that Antoine does 10 hours every month that are paid overtime, and that will be calculated as well.
Do I need, maybe a stupid question, but do I need to activate like my hourly hour salary?
In this case, if you want to, of course, there's ways to compute automatically the equivalent hourly rate of monthly salary, but for now it is not implemented yet. This is something that we got feedback from and we'll try to implement, because it's a bit tricky, since you can have multiple ways of defining an equivalent hourly rate. So for now it is a manual input where you can check the hourly here and define the relevant hourly rate.
All right.
So we'll do this example for another hourly paid employee.
So another type of unit that we have is the percentage, of course.
Yeah, of course. We have a wage type called, here it's called general AVS deduction in percentage. What is this used for? Very important. This is something that you should note. It's used for all the different deductions that are specific to certain cantons. For example, in Genève, you have la mat, 0.04%. And here the unit is a percentage. You can also define the company part. At 0.04%. This is how you define generic deductions for your employee. And we had in the past only those two available. So this triggered some potential accounting issues where you could not define credits and debits for different deductions. For example, you could have another one. Which one? PC Famille.
Be careful that you took actually the same one.
I know. Yeah. This is part of the example.
Okay.
So this is what you used to do in the past. So in the accounting, you would have this one and this one merged into one, which was an issue. So to solve that, we added. We actually added a few of them so that you have some maneuver space in terms of accounting. I heard that this is not enough. Maybe we might need more. So I guess we will have to add more in the future for this.
Great. I mean, this table here is really where we got most of the questions and feedback, I think, during the year. And that's why I think also the documentation can be useful for you, because there are a lot of examples of use cases that we met on the market and how we actually answer them by using those wage types. Maybe one thing more is that here, I think we define monthly wage type, as you said, that's going to be applied every month. Is there a way to set one wage type for one single month?
Let me first, because I think I forgot, let me first introduce what a wage type is, because I think we kind of skipped that point. So what is a wage type? A wage type is a payment, something that is added to the salary, some line on the payslip that will have different characteristics in terms of what you pay on it in terms of insurance, what you pay on it in terms of source tax, and where it is displayed on the salary certificate, on the wage statement. To check all the available wage types in Odoo, you have in configuration wage types. And here we'll see all the relevant information of my wage types. So you can see the debit and credit accounts. You can see, here I think it's because I zoom too much.
Yeah.
You will see all the, this is kind of the DNA, the fingerprint of each wage type. So if you see a salary by task, you can see that this is added to the gross. It is subject to AVS payments. It is subject to LA payments, LAC, EGM, source tax, where it is taken in the wage statement section, and different things relevant here, which is, you will see you have all the explanations there about what this means. So if you do a statistic declaration, this will be taken into account in this category. If it's if it contributes to the 30th month, if it contributes to the 30th month for an hourly employee, if it contributes to the vacation payments, and I think you have a few other ones where you can set up different LPP information.
So here, I guess that everything is pre-set up, but of course, I can already forecast question in the chat asking,
can I create my own one?
Yes, can I do my own one?
So for the moment, no, you cannot create a new one, but I'm pretty sure most people, when they try to create a new one, it just means that they didn't find it in there. So they didn't really search for the one that they need, and they might think, oh, I need this new one. Of course, there has been instances in the past where we didn't have a specific one and we added it. So if I get the feedback a few times that this one is missing and we really need it, this can be done through either contacting support or business analysts saying that this is a wage type that is really needed for a lot of companies, and Odoo will add it and it will be updated instantly from our side.
And can we, okay, so that's for, let's say, creating a new one, and so a feedback can be created as simply as as creating a support ticket to Odoo. Is it possible, I mean, for them, a question that we received as well, to just edit an existing one, to adapt some parameters? Of course, we have the debit and credit account that could be adapted for
debit and credit can be adapted. There's a few fields that can be adapted. For example, I know that for the vacation payments, some, again, convention collective have different rules. So you could say that in your company, this one is subject, this one contributes to the vacation pay, so you can tick it there without an issue. But if you start to mess with other fields, there it will be on your side that an error has been made, and it will probably be, this is reset back to the standard every day, no matter what changes you make. So you cannot really make changes on the core stuff here above. So that was for the question of what a wage type was and what you see actually on this small list. This is actually all the inputs that are possible in your monthly pay. So Antoine asked, this is the monthly recurring ones. How can I make punctual ones? How can I say in March you will get a commission of 10,000 euro? Well, this is done through this menu. You have this little money sign here, one-time payments.
Maybe you can zoom back a bit more.
Sorry. We go back
maybe not so much.
we go back to
yes,
150.
Great.
So we go back to this button here, one-time payments. And you have here a calendar view where you choose where the monthly wage tab will be appearing. So I want for March a commission for his extra work of 4,000. And same system, you can add a customized name on the payslip. We save it here, and we have there the commission.
So it could be any day of that month.
It could be any day of that month. It doesn't matter. It's just the calendar view is made in this way in Odoo. So you just pick a day in the month, and it doesn't really matter. And you have here, this is a new menu that exists. You have a way to check all the wage types of all your employees through here reporting monthly wage types, and you can see to who it was assigned and the amounts. And you can see if it's a one-time payment or recurrent payment. And of course, you have all the capabilities of Odoo filtering and searching. So I can group by type. I can see all my recurrent payments. I can see all my one-time payments. I can group by employee. And you have all this. And of course, you have the pivot table that you can export or insert in spreadsheets. You also have one possibility. If you want to add wage types for a lot of employees at the same time, for example, if you have a big team of salesmen and you would like to say you have a big spreadsheet of commission amounts, you could use the Odoo import feature to say that for these employees, you will import a commission of different custom amounts from your spreadsheet.
All right.
So I think we went through the whole payroll section.
Yeah. Okay, seems good. What's next then?
Next, we will define your insurances. So we configured previously different insurances. We now have to set them up on the employee. So we set up his AVS. We can say if he has a special status. So if he's for now, this is a manual process where you have to define youth, for example, that is for people that are under 18-year-old. This is feedback as well that we get often to maybe compute this automatically based on the birth date. This is something we're looking into because it can be a bit error prone to set up this manually. You have the exempted feature where if an employee makes less than 2,200, around that, I'm not sure about the exact amount, he's not subject to AVS cotizations. Or if he's retired and he has the right to the monthly 1,400 exoneration. Or this is a new thing that comes with the ELM 5.1 certification. This is a new law that passed recently, where you can be retired, but renounce to your monthly deduction. Meaning that if you want to aggregate more money towards your pension later, you can say, I'm at the retirement age, but I choose to not take my exoneration. So this is what you would choose here. But of course, Antoine is still young, so he's not retired yet. We choose his compensation fund, his group.
Well, here we come back to what we discussed earlier, right?
Here we come back to our LA insurance, accident insurance. So we discussed previously here that you can choose to pay 0 or 50 there. And you might want to pay 100%. You might want to pay everything for your employee. This is done through this section where you choose the LA solution type. So on the configuration, you define the group, but you have a group and a type. What is a type? A type is something that is general to all companies that says this is the policy of this employee regarding his LA solution. So you can be type 0, meaning not insured. For example, the board of administration might not be insured against work accidents. You have the classic one, which is occupational and non-occupational insured with deductions, meaning that you will pay what you defined here. So you will get the deduction of the non-occupational part at 50%. Or you can be occupational and non-occupational insured without deductions.
So in that case,
what does without deductions mean? It means that nothing is deducted to the employee for his accident insurance, but someone has to pay, so it will be the company here that pays at 100%, no matter what you defined in your settings there. Or he could be only occupational insured. This usually happens, for example, for employees that work less than 8 hours a week. There will only be insurance against work accidents. So in this case, neither the company nor the employee will pay non-occupational accident cotisation. So we take the classic one here of 1. And we can choose here his additional insurances, which are the additional accident insurance or the daily sickness.
Which are the only one that you can actually not set, but the rest for now was
The rest for now
required.
is mandatory, but you could have, of course, exceptions. But here we have to set his additional ones. We defined 2 types of solutions for each. Here you can maximum define 2 solutions. So we define here A1, A2, A1, A2 for both. So that was the main ones. Now we have to define his pension insurance that we defined there. And we have here a lot of options. So this is relevant for transmission. When did he enter the company? This is computed based on the occupation dates that we defined earlier. We have the LPP codes. So this is the code that we defined previously. Antoine is in production. And you have here the LPP payments. So Antoine is paid monthly, not too complicated. You can know how much he will pay through your insurance. So we can define an employee contribution and an employer contribution. But we can also have what we said earlier, this amount in percentage. So for example, you can say 10% and 10%. You might ask 10% of what exactly? Well, this is the magic behind the payroll engine. It will be 10% of the LPP basis, which is computed with different rules. And it might not be exactly 10% of the gross salary, obviously, because some wages might not contribute to the LPP. Some wages might be exempt from it, so this might differ from your gross. But of course, everything is done automatically for you in the backend. Of course, Antoine is, we said earlier that he's a Belgian citizen. He doesn't have Swiss nationality, so he has to pay his withholding taxes immediately in the payslip. What that means is that, as I said earlier, when you tick some boxes, check some options, some new stuff might appear that you might need to fill in. For example, if I untick this, the source tax tab will disappear. But if I put it back, we get this back here. So there's always this kind of hide what you don't need logic in our employee.
Kind of a dynamic overview, indeed, an interface. Yeah.
So, of course, withholding tax is kind of complicated. So we have here all the different informations that we need to fill. So we have the tax scale type, which is the most common one, where you choose what he's subject to. Here he's A, so scale for single people. You have the eligible children deduction. So why do you need to fill this manually? Why not just take the children on the menu there? Because in some cantons you might have weird rules where you have 1 kid, but it counts for 2, so you put 2 here. So we kind of chose to let this be manual, so we don't guess by magic. You have different informations about the code here. If he's subject to the Swiss church tax, which will change the code here from A0N to A0Y. And you can here specify that this code was specially approved by the administration there. You also have different informations here, such as the religious denomination, which is required for the monthly transmission to the tax office. You have the working days in Switzerland, which usually is 20/20, but if you work 10 days in Switzerland and 10 in France, you will only be subject to withholding taxes on the 10 days that you worked in Switzerland. We have also this new feature where you define the telework percentage. This is only relevant to French cross-borders, where it's mandatory to transmit since I think it's mandatory from this year, I'm not sure, but this is something that will come, where you define, for example, for French cross-borders, what percentage of work was done from home.
Mm-hmm.
You can also define if you have other jobs somewhere else, because this impacts the computation of source tax. And you can say, for example, that you can specify the details here. You either don't know, or you know that he works 50% airwells, or you can say around a gross monthly income somewhere else. For example, you have you make 3,000 francs in another job. So everything on this window will kind of impact the computation of source tax.
I think there was a question in the chat indeed about that small table at the bottom with the mutations.
Yeah.
What could it be linked to?
So this is these are the mutations that we have. Of course, this is relevant to transmission. We have entry, withdrawal, and mutation. So based on what changes on your employee, things will appear here. For example, there should appear entry in company here. If I do a declaration here, for my monthly transmission of January, it will say that Antoine joined the company now and he's subject to source tax now in my company. And if I change some informations, for example, regarding marital status, I can try here. I'm not sure. I think I'm missing some setup somewhere. If I change his marital status there.
I got married. Happy me.
Happy you.
Yes,
you have here that this thing that appeared automatically, which is a mutation of his civil status, valid from 1st of February. Of course, automatically computed from the timeline up there.
So, and afterwards, it will be used, as you mentioned, for the transmission.
Exactly. When you do the transmission of February, of course, we have to change the code as well, since you got married. You became B. And on the transmission of February, you will it will be said to the tax administration that Antoine changed his civil status for this month.
All right. Well, I think there is one more thing now to define on the employees.
Yes, we're still missing the wage statement. Again, maybe it's a bit annoying to define it yourself every time. So we're thinking about automatically assigning the main one to each employee every time so that we can avoid mistakes. But here you can choose the previous template that we defined. So Antoine certificate. That will get filled with all the information that we defined earlier. But we have the flexibility to make some small adaptations for you. So I will not give you free meals or lunch. You will be hungry at 12. So here we define the specificity for Antoine there.
I have a question because I think previously when we were on the definition, when we created the template, I saw a button at the top mentioning update all related templates.
So obviously, if you define your template at the beginning, then you create 100 employees and you realize, oh, I made a mistake there. Do I have to go change it manually on every employee? Of course not. We have this button here that will update every employee that uses this template with the corrected information.
Great.
I think we are good in terms of setup.
All right. So now, if I assume good, so we should go for the payslip generation?
We can go for the payslip generation, but we can also create a few more employees with different other different stuff. Or
thing is that I think we have only 40 minutes remaining.
Okay.
So
let's go on with the payslip generation. So how does it work? In the payslip menu, you have this new thing called pay runs. New pay run for the month of January. Continue. We select our employee. And we have here our pay run with relevant informations. So we can see here.
Great.
Okay, I forgot to set up this. Well, we can talk about the warnings. Yeah. So we said earlier that if you make mistakes, they will appear here in bright yellow. So in this case, it's not really a mistake related to payroll, but it's a mistake related to our the accounting side, where we didn't define a journal account on our structure. So we can define here the salary journal, salaries. Oops.
Yeah.
Save.
And so it automatically disappears?
It automatically disappears. If you don't see anything here, you don't have any obvious mistakes. Let's imagine that I forgot there to input, for example, what could we forget?
Residence canton or...
Résidence canton.
Yes.
You will see here missing canton and surtaxe canton. So you go back to the employee, personal.
Yes.
And it goes back to normal.
Something that is really important here is that warnings should be very important for the users. Like they need to fix it, all of them, before.
Yeah. And you will see it here on this column, issues, that shows you globally which payslip or which employees are problematic here and which ones do you need to fix.
Great.
So we have the payslip there. We have different tabs. You have here the monthly wages, which is the wages related to what work he has done. So you have the monthly salary, but you could have other ones such as hourly salary, overtime, salary in case of illness, accident, etc. You have a lot of them actually.
I have maybe a question as we mentioned that part.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be sick next week. How can I record that efficiently?
Well, efficiently you can either do it preemptively. So you have the time off button here. And you can say that this week you're putting a time off. So you have different time off options. You have unpaid leave, illness leave. There's a few time offs that have impact on the salary. So it's the illness leave from 12 to 16, 5 days. And we have a few options here regarding your time off. So we have the continued pay. So this determines what percentage of the salary will be paid during this period. It could be 100%. It could be 80% based on your insurance policy. You can define also the disability percentage. So this takes the prorated amount and prorates it again.
Mm-hmm.
So this gives you a bit more flexibility. Let's say that we are 100 for both. We submit the request. And if we go back to our pay run, you will see that automatically the wage got prorated. So you see that here you have the salary in case of illness of this amount, and you have the normal salary. If we had done, let's cancel this one, create it again. If we had done 50%, we can see here that it took what you should have been paid and divided it by 2 with the factor here.
Great. Of course, here we can do it, and it's, as you said, dynamic because the payslip is still in draft.
Yeah.
But if it was confirmed, of course, you would not be able to.
If it was confirmed, obviously you cannot change the amounts. So the way to add the time off after your pay run was closed is either to cancel the payslip and recreate it, or just to defer the time off to the next month. Here we see all the relevant inputs that we defined previously. So you have the LPP contributions, you have the different allowances that we defined earlier, and the generic deduction. You have the fully detailed salary computation, where you can see every single computation line. There's a lot of them.
Here it could make people a bit afraid, but of course they need to know that this is just for their own purpose to understand
this is a bit of a back-end look of what happened in the computation. I think this is very useful for fiduciaries, for example, that want to check numbers, check that everything was completely computed correctly.
But of course, on the final payslip, not everything will appear.
Not everything will appear. We can print it. And we have here the final payslip. So we have the name, address, a few informations, and what the employee will receive at the end.
Interesting to know that actually you defined that I was speaking French, so the payslip is now displayed and printed in French.
Yes. Of course, there's a few. Do we have any non-translation one?
I think this one is still okay, but yes.
We might have some, for example, when we add a wage type mid-year, there might be some delay in the translation to other languages, but usually it comes pretty fast. So that was the printed payslip. So we check that everything is fine. What do? We create the draft entry, and once we confirmed it, we have other warnings for this payslip. We have missing bank account. So for you, we still have to define the bank account on your employee.
That's because, of course, the next logical step is to proceed with the payment.
Yes. So if you have SEPA activated, for example, and you want to generate your SEPA file that you send to your bank, you need to specify the bank account. But here we didn't install it, so we just mark them as paid. So that was the process to run your January month. So that was the whole pay flow. We now get to the interesting part, which is the transmission. So we defined our insurances, we define our work location, we define our source tax institutions, we define our employee, his personal information, how he's paid, his specific insurances. We now have to send this data to our institutions. So everything happens in this button, transmission, and you have a few of them. So it's divided in two kind of transmissions. You have the ones that you do monthly, and you have the ones that you do yearly at the end of the year. So the monthly ones are the entry withdrawal mutations. Not everyone has to do it, but it's called the EMA declaration. Basically what it means is that you declare to the AVS, CAF and LPP that this employee entered, this employee left, or this employee changed his personal informations. And of course, all of this is done automatically from what you filled in his personal information. So all you have to do is prepare data, select the relevant month and year. You can do a test transmission beforehand so that this is not sent in real production.
So what does it mean, test transmission? It means that if you check it and click on declare salary?
It means that if you check it and declare salary, it will be kind of
a fake
just a fake transmission to the institution that will not process this data at all. So here we can declare the salary. And what we see here is the declaration object. We have one action possible is to get its status because it just got sent and we need to check its status. One important thing is that every transmission that is sent and received is logged in the chatter, so you have the exact transmission file that was used to the institution and the exact transmission file that was received from the institution. So this gives a nice auditing logs of everything. So we send it, we now get the status, and we can see that it's finished. For the AVS, it was a success, and you have different options regarding the transmission. You could have, for example, if you do for the LPP success, we can see the details here of what happened, our employees. For the CAF, we have an extra step. We need to do a completion. So what does completion mean? It means that clicking this button will redirect you. Of course, this is a sandbox, so it's not real production data, but usually if you click completion, it will redirect you to the website of your insurance where you need to fill in maybe some extra information. And you can always fetch the result. Success. You have all the different warnings that were sent from the insurance and all the declaration information. You could also have what we call a dialog message. So this is a feature that I'm kind of proud of. A dialog message is the institution that sends a message for you to fill directly into Odoo. So you can see here the message that was sent by the institution, Madame, Monsieur, blah, blah, blah. And you can fill in different informations there. So this can be, this is super flexible. So the institution can create any type of message, send it to you, and you reply back in Odoo directly.
Great.
So that was the global idea of how transmission works.
Just to because there is one button that I did not see.
Yeah.
No, come back to the declaration, the first one. Yeah, it's a replacement declaration. What?
So replacement declaration means you made a declaration, but you realize that you forgot an employee.
Okay.
You made a mistake. So what you do is you make a new one, check this button, this
All
box, and you decide, I want to substitute this declaration by this new one for January. So that was for the what we call the EMA. Of course, not everyone does it, so it might not be relevant to everyone. Now you have the source tax declaration for January. Antoine is a Belgian citizen. He paid taxes to the canton of Lucerne. So we prepare the data here, and we detect that we have one employee that is subject to source tax here. We can do here, what we have is the possibility to generate the report. So we click the button there.
Will it be, yes, loaded in the chatter? Yes, that's right.
And it will be loaded in the chatter for this month. And this is the classic SwissDec report that you see in every payroll software, because we all have to use the same format here. So you can see Antoine here, his entry in the company, his occupation and time, and the amount of source tax that he paid for this month.
As I think about it, transmission that we are doing now should be done by customers, Odoo users, I would mean, in production database, right?
Yeah.
Not in testing, but they can do test transmission in production.
Actually, in production, what you can do is test transmissions. But if you are, for example, an Odoo SH user and you have staging branches, then you can easily generate the reports here as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that we added extra. We added the possibility to generate reports in testing environments. So
all right,
this is fine there. But in production, you can do test transmission beforehand if you're not sure about your data. So same process here. All transmissions are equivalent to each other. You declare the salary, you get a status, and you see every time the relevant institution for that declaration. So you can either complete here, or you can fetch the results. And if you fetch the results, it says release is missing. It means that you still have to go through
the form that we saw,
your website, the website of your institution, fill in the extra info, and wait again for the response. And the third monthly declaration is the statistic declaration. Again, same principle. We have here all the relevant statistic data. We have a better statistic report, but sadly, SwissDec didn't yet make a report for this version of ELM. We are waiting for it. So at the moment where it's released, you will be able to generate the statistic report, but currently this report type is not yet supported by SwissDec. So in this menu, you can see that we also have the source tax corrections. What does that mean? It means that maybe, Antoine, you didn't tell me the truth in January, and you were actually married, and you should not have been A but B on your code. So what we can do, what we have to do, is to correct it on the next relevant month. So we create what we call source tax correction for Antoine. Reason, liar. And this is what we call a correction. We have the correction type here. So this is a correction that we do on the company side, that we create ourselves because we realized there was a mistake. The institution didn't catch it yet, so we have to do it on our end. And we have two possibilities of doing automatic correction or a manual one. Automatic one is preferably easier. Let's first change Antoine's information because he lied. So he's actually married. Let's do this fast. We fill in his spouse information. That his spouse doesn't have income. We go back to the correction. For Antoine, reason he lied.
Yeah, and so the correction is, of course, applied before we actually already generated the payslip for January. If that was the case, we could...
January was applied, it was paid, it was not transmitted. With source tax, you cannot do retroactive stuff in the past. You cannot cancel. It's already paid. So what you have to do is to correct in the next relevant month. So we select January. We can see the original code. And automatic means that it will take all the previous payslips, apply the current information, and recompute everything such that we have the original old amount that is corrected and the new amount for the current month corrected. So we confirm that's all you have to do. And once we generate, did we change his B here? Not yet. We do B. When we create the pay run of February, for Antoine, we will see in the payslip that a correction is associated with it. And if we print it, we will see an adjustment that was made for Antoine. So actually, this is beneficial for him. Since he's married, he pays less taxes, so he's refunded for what he paid extra in the previous month. And you can see the details in debug mode of what happened on the source tax in the backend. So basically, you have the old amounts that were all cancelled, recomputed with the correct information, and added back, and the difference is paid in the next relevant month. Such that when you validate your pay run, and you do the transmission for February, you will see that the old amount was cancelled, and the new one for that month is re-added. So you have the new code, the new amounts that he should have paid.
Great. Okay, good.
So this is how correction work. If you need to do weird changes, if you want to do manual changes, you have to select manual. You can choose the relevant payslip, and you can choose to change every amount manually if you wish to. But for usual processes, usually it's you forgot, you took the wrong code, or you had the wrong canton, so you do automatic correction in this way. So that was the monthly transmissions. We now have the yearly one, the big interesting one that happens in from December to January. We didn't generate the whole pay slips for the month, but it's not an issue.
Here I got a question about this because it's a yearly declaration, but still we need to select the months. What does it mean in practice?
It means in practice that it will, this is kind of to be used as an internal tool. So if you select here June, is to have the reports from January to June with the relevant salaries, but
kind of the year to date.
Yeah, you can have the year to date information of your reports. And you don't have to transmit it. You can use it as a reporting tool to generate your reports. So you will have here all the relevant institutions. So for the yearly report, we have the social insurance, family compensatory fund, accident insurance, additional accident and daily sickness. You have the different cross-border details. We don't have any cross-border in company, so it wasn't checked. And we have the wage statements.
I have a question here. I think that I heard also in the past. When we generate that declaration, we do it for all the employees of the company. We cannot choose one specific employee that you want to generate.
So it is a bulk declaration for everyone in your company. So you can choose to select the report. Let's generate them one by one.
Yes, and so every time they are added in the chatter as a
we don't see it because we are a bit zoomed, but you can see them here at the bottom. If we are like this, maybe you can see more clearly there. So we have for each report the classic one you see in every software here. And the prettiest one, the wage statement that we can see here, generated automatically with Odoo.
Great. Yes. Perfect.
So again, same process, declare salary, get status, and we have all the relevant information for all the responses that were received by the institution.
I have maybe a question. What is the create EIV file button at the top?
So this is kind of a technical process. So in the case where the SwissDeck transmitter itself doesn't work, so there's a downtime from SwissDeck itself, what we can do is a manual upload of our declaration. So the EIV file
In the chat, yeah.
in the chatter is basically the declaration itself. So you download it, and I think it's I'm not sure about the website itself. I think there's a link somewhere. There's a link of SwissDeck. I will need to find it.
We can put it in the documentation. Yeah.
Where you upload this file, and basically it's like it's the same process as doing here declare salary, but you do it outside of the software because the transmitter has an issue on SwissDeck side, so we have to do it manually. So this is a requirement that they added in the case of downtimes, where you can create these declaration files manually and upload them on a specific website designated for that. So
good. All right.
That's about it. Oh, we also have another transmission, which is the yearly one to the LPP, which can happen in January or in April sometimes, where you declare your LPP basis for your monthly employees, and you can declare the salary, get a status, you get an answer from the LPP itself, and this allows you to actually receive the amounts directly from the insurance, and you can import them through this button. Of course, this is not production data, so it will not work, but you can, for your monthly employees, import the contribution of your employees immediately in the contract. We also have the possibility to correct salary certificates if you transmitted them in December, but you realize that you made a mistake in an option. You have the option to choose the previous declaration, original date, the rectification type, so it can be a global replacement or an individual replacement for each employee.
Okay, it seems good. I think we discussed the whole transmission topic.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is 15 minutes left. Maybe we can dive into the questions and see. I think we answered a part of them already. But okay, let's start with the first one from Thierry.
Yeah, so that was what I mentioned earlier. You have this admin fees thing. So what we said is that this amount is on the cotisation and not the salary. So if you work on a salary basis and they give you a rate for the salary, you would have to do a rule of 3, I think, to convert the rate. We can convert the rate from salary to cotization. It's just a little math equation to do it. It's a bit annoying. I think in the future we'll add the possibility to choose if you want to do it on the salary mass or the payments itself.
Okay, so just for everyone to know, so Thierry's question was about the basis amount, I think, for that admin fees %, either like the total salary or the cotization salary, but yeah. Okay, that's clear. And second point about the family compensation CAF, that's it, I think. Yeah,
so easy.
Yeah.
Family compensation fund. Here, as I said, here the question asks for a third child. So from the third child, 0 to 16, child allowance, 400. And you have here supplementary amount, 100.
Yeah. Yeah, it should answer the question as well. Yeah. Okay, and another question from Laurent about restaurants and a specific convention collective.
Le pourcentage de la LPP dépend du montant du salaire. The percentage depends on the salary. And not the age, you mean? Well, for now, I don't think this can be handled through Odoo. I think I've seen a ticket about this in the past, where you have kind of matrices of where the percentage is applied to the salary and not the age, because usually the LPP percentage says from 18-year-old to 25 you pay this percent, from 25 to 35 you pay this percent. But for now, this is not handled in Odoo yet, no.
All right. Next question from Thierry. Yes, where can we change the family data?
Yes.
I think that part we mentioned it with the versioning also.
Everything happens in the versioning. So you see here the date of the current version. So this information is relevant from January 1. If you want to make a change for March, you say in March, and you just change your information there. So single, up. So in March, single, and in January, married. So you can follow here the changes that were made. And you can see them on a list view and add, of course, any field you want in there to see kind of what happened during the year.
All right. Next question from Amélie asking about the LPC FAM. Can it be, let's say, encoded with the 5474?
Well, LPC FAM, first of all, will not be declared to SwissDec. How it works for the AVS is that SwissDec only is interested. Where is it? SwissDec is only interested by the salary. So the whole salary that he received subject to AVS. So the amounts paid itself are not transmitted to the institution. The only thing that is transmitted is the salary itself. So there's no issue here to transmit LPCFAM since it's not transmitted in the first place.
All right, okay. So they can use that's wage types to encode it then.
Yeah.
Another question from Thierry that we answered at the beginning about which fields are mandatory on the employees.
You will see on the payslip big yellow banner saying, and also on the pay run, on the issues here, if something is missing or is wrong.
All right. Loic has asked 3 questions, I think. First one is about something that we mentioned about the wage types. Is it possible to create new ones? Asking for example, let's say if they have some flexibility. I think it's mostly a general feedback, but our answers was mostly for now, we don't recommend to create new.
We don't recommend doing it, but if you are technically well informed, and if you maybe consulted it with me before, but you can easily create one. It's possible to create it. If you set up in a certain way, it will be transmitted in that way. So in that case, you will not break the system and you will not break the certification, but you have to know that if you create something, it will not be updated by us. So if something changes in the law, you're in charge of updating yourself if this wage type changed, for example.
Another question that he asked is about, let's say, as you mentioned at the beginning of December, we made an update of the Swiss deck module in Odoo, and I think it's mostly a feedback about how to communicate the updates and how they are done. It's that for now we are still, let's say, improving ourselves on that side. We try to communicate as much as possible.
So first of all, in terms of legal updates and certification updates, everything always happens from the first version where it was certified, meaning 17. So if we do a legal update, it will be updated from 17 and onwards every time. And this happened through the standard Odoo update process, which happens every Monday. Or in case of really urgent needs, it will be, of course, deployed immediately with our infrastructure team. So yes, there's a communication issue here with our updates. We have in the plans to make a release note section, maybe in the documentation section, where every single update that is done is clearly stated what happened, what was changed, and maybe what will change in the future for planned updates.
But it's true that today one practice that we can still advise could be to think about, of course, maybe not every week, but okay, if you ever doubt if you are still up to date, just to update then the ELM module in the apps to make sure that you are with the last available version.
Yeah.
Okay, and question about the ELM 5.4, 5.5.
Yeah. So we released 5.1 and 5.3 recently. I read the specifications of 5.4, 5.5, but I think it's smarter to wait 6.0. The draft release has been sent to us about ELM 6.0. That will come at the end of the year. So maybe it's better to focus to keep it like this for now and wait in the future to do the 6.0 certification maybe in the future, where it will include 5.5, 5.4 and other additional features. So of course, if this module is a success, we'll obviously keep updating the standards for payroll in Switzerland.
Great. I have a question from Thierry as well, asking how to import, I think, wage types, say, massively for each employee. We show it also as well, yes.
Well, we define it here. For example, I didn't show an hourly employee, but if someone is paid by hour, 40 here, you have to define in a recurrent manner the paid hours for this employee, for example, 144. But if this changes, we said earlier that they can be defined through one-time payments, and one-time payments can be imported here. So you would have to import your Excel here with the column employee, the wage type paid hours, and the amount of paid hours. And if you import this every month, you will have the monthly paid hours for each one of your employees.
Indeed, so that if you prepare like your Excel file, let's say beforehand, you can just then fill it in every month and then import it very easily. So yeah,
you just have to get familiar with the import-export mechanism of Odoo, and this should be fairly easy.
All right, Niklas was asking as well a question. Could you please also show us the reporting? In particular, I would like to see the payroll run reporting and the complete monthly payroll data.
Yes. So I think the prettiest one, where you can see everything, is reporting payslip lines. So here you have the year-to-date information of the current year of every single wage type in your database. So you can see here for each month every amount that was generated. You can insert this in a spreadsheet, do pivots, do groupings, everything.
You can filter also.
You can filter also on an employee, for example. Employee is equal to Antoine, and I will check all the payslips of Antoine here. So this offers all the capabilities of Odoo pivot reporting. We also have a few reports here. You have the monthly summary. So we can aggregate by company or by employee, and you can download the PDF here. It's true that I should have showed this. Kind of interesting. You will see the monthly summary. You also have the master data. What is this? This is everything that was relevant to your company at this moment. So you have two things, the master report and the wage type report. The master report is all your insurance or information with all the different rates that you defined. And the wage type report is the current state of wage types at that moment in regards of what they should be subject to in terms of insurances.
What's the purpose of such reports? Is it like for audit or?
It is for audit. Purpose? It is for historical purpose to have a kind of a PDF trace of everything. But of course, in Odoo, these things can be achieved through pivot views as well. Yeah. But SwissDeck makes it mandatory to have somewhere to define it as a PDF. And you also have the individual accounts for your employees. And so you have the individual account of Antoine and the individual account for the whole company. So I think this takes a bit of time.
Yeah, I think it's a cron that's going to trigger.
So basically it's the document, it's basically this document, but for the whole year and with every single wage type. And you'll have one globally for the company and one for each single of your employees. What do we have else?
Yeah, okay.
You also have the occupations, where you can see here everyone that entered or left your company. So Antoine entered in January 1. If I had another employee there that entered another moment, you can see there. Or if Antoine got out and entered back, you will see 2 lines here for Antoine for his different occupations. So those are kind of the reporting capabilities right now of payroll.
Great. Well, I think we just arrived at the end of the Swiss-related question. I still see questions in the chat, about some other topics. As a reminder, that we won't skip your questions, but you can address them for next week, because it will be a regular Q&A session at that moment. But I think that for today and for Swiss Payroll, that's it. Thank you very much, Jürgen, for your time, for having answered all of that question. And yes, we see each other next week, let's say, for the next Odoo Insider. And yes, have a nice day.